We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
From your favorite source for Chicago White Sox talk, delivering news, interviews, analysis, and more. This is the Sox Machine Podcast with your hosts, Jim Margulis, James Fegan, and Josh Nelson.
Thanks, Rob, and welcome to the Sox Machine Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Nelson, and this episode is released on 4th of July, 2024. We at Sox Machine hope everyone has a wonderful 4th of July, chilling with friends and family. Please, please, please do not blow off any of your body parts when launching fireworks. For our friends outside of the United States, we hope you had a rather exciting Thursday. We are 10 days away from the 2024 Major League Baseball draft, as the Chicago White Sox have the 5th overall pick, and pretty soon we are going to see some trades made. So how does the White Sox farm system look after the first half of the season? Well, joining me to record this special edition podcast is one of our best friends from MLB.com. It's Jim Callis. Welcome back. Good to chat with you again. What I assume is your slowest time of the year, right?
Yeah, I don't have anything going on right now. I'm just lounging around, not doing much of anything. So very relaxed time.
Are you going to Texas for the draft?
Yes, I'm trying to think what today's Wednesday. I leave. Yes, I will be there. I was thinking I would get my weeks confused. That's how busy I am. Yes, I will be in Texas for the draft.
And of course, you'll be on MLB Network. And again, the draft starts on Sunday, July 14th. But before we get to draft talk, you guys over at MLB.com, you just updated your top 100 list. Great timing because we're going to start seeing some trades coming through. But let's start with the White Sox top 100 prospects, because with the updated list, number 16 is Colson Montgomery. Number 18 is now Noah Schultz. He's one of the biggest jumpers in the top 100. Drew Thorpe is number 38, but eventually his status as a prospect will expire soon as he's already with the White Sox. And at number 74 is catcher Edgar Caro, who's getting a lot of attention from our readers and listeners over at Sox Machine. But Montgomery and Schultz, Jim, they're heading to the Futures game. James Fegan shared that news in our previous podcast episode. How are you liking the White Sox farm system so far after the first half of 2024?
I still think it's a lot deeper than it was, a year ago, before they made a bunch of trades and they had a pretty deep draft. I still think it's more middle of the pack. I think it went from toward the bottom of MLB farm systems to more the middle of the pack. There have been good developments. There have been developments that aren't as good. Like, I feel like if we're giving a grade, it feels like it's been an average year for them. There have been guys who made progress. There have been other guys you're like, oh, that's kind of disturbing a little bit. But I think it's a middle of the pack farm system. Obviously the centerpieces are Montgomery and Schultz, and I like both those guys. It's interesting. On one hand, the glass very full. I think Noah Schultz might be the best pitching prospect in baseball at some point in the next 6 or 12 months. I'd like to see him go deeper into games. I'd like to see him hold up over a full season. The guy's pretty much dominated since the day he set foot in pro ball. And so that's good news. with Colson, you're just looking at their top two guys, still very high on Colson. His year is bothering me a little bit. Is it bothering you at all?
Well, we did get this Patreon question from Adam, who was going to ask you, Jim, how concerned should we be about Colson Montgomery? As we're recording this on July 3rd, Montgomery's hitting .211 with a .328 on base percentage, but slugging just .374. Again, he is playing games in Charlotte, one of the most hitter-friendly ballparks in all of minor league baseball, and in 72 games has 10 home runs and 32 RBIs. And I have to give a cap tip to Keith Law over The Athletic. When he updated his list, he mentioned that there seems to be an issue for Colson Montgomery against velocity. And the great thing, and also maybe bad thing about AAA and putting your top prospects there, they can no longer hide Jim because their StatCast data is now available on Baseball Savant. And that checks out, especially against righties. If a right-handed pitcher throws a 93 or slower fastball to Colson Montgomery, his OPS is over 900. If it exceeds 94 miles an hour, it drops well below 700. So that seems to be the breaking point for Colson, but I'm kind of chalking this up to, again, trying to be positive, Jim. It's not alarms are going off, the sky is falling. The sky's already falling on the White Sox. This team's going to lose 120 games this year. But for Montgomery, I think it's good that he's getting a challenge in Charlotte, and he just needs more time.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I'm not sounding the alarms either. I'm concerned about what you just cited. I'm concerned that he's striking out at a 30% clip. I mean, he's still drawing walks. And I really do like Colson Montgomery. The thing that concerns me about him, though, is he's moved very quickly. You know, he's had injuries the last couple of years, so he's never even played 100 games in a season. You know, Project Birmingham, that wasn't necessarily a merit-based promotion, but he was in Double A, like 51 games in Double A. He's hit .218. His strikeout rate is about 24%. He's slugging .391. 71 games in Triple A. He's hitting .214. His strikeout rate's 30%. He's slugging .378. Like, as good as he is, and he's young, and I think he's been pushed, and I think he just needs time to adjust. The guy's like a career .215 hitter above A-ball in 122 games. It's not a huge sample size, but it's not small either. So I still like him. I'm still bullish on him. I'm wondering, and I know it's our list, I almost feel like he's a little bit high on our own list. Like, pitchers are pitchers, but if you made me take one of them, if I had to take one or the other, I might take Noah Schultz over Colson Montgomery.
Okay. No, I guess at this point, I mean, the goal was at the beginning part of the season, Montgomery would replace Paul DeYoung in late August, and he would get his cup of coffee,
right?
Not 45 days worth, so he could retain his rookie eligibility for 2025. But it has been such an uneven season, Jim. We're going to have a conversation of, is it even worth calling up Montgomery this season? And do you even pencil him in? Is he even part of the starting shortstop conversation for the 2025 White Sox? And if he doesn't improve later this summer, then we're going to get at Sox Machine a lot of questions. Then what in the world do you do at shortstop in 2025? And I don't know, bring back Paul DeYoung or sign somebody else for another year. Maybe you go be bold and sign Willy Adames. I'm not sure. And that's where then White Sox fans are going to get really concerned that, okay, well, here's another top prospect that's not panning out or meeting their potential.
Yeah, I mean, if he, based on how he's playing now, I wouldn't call him up this year. Like, I don't see any point. Like, when you call up Colson Montgomery, like, he's a big part of your future. And I don't want to sound like what I was saying before. It's like I'm giving up on him. I'm just saying I am kind of concerned. Not like the sky is falling, but I am concerned. You don't want him to come up and struggle and add to those concerns. I don't want Colson Montgomery, if I'm the White Sox, to come up to the big leagues. And I mean, I'll just do some BS translation from AAA to big league stat. Like, he's in the equivalent of what, like 180, like in the big leagues. And if he's striking out 30% of the time in AAA, okay, we'll say 35% of the time in the big leagues. I don't want him to come up and play 6 weeks in the big leagues and hit 180 with 35% K rate, because then that has even more questions. I want him to prove he can hit AAA pitching and handle velocity and be more consistent before I call him up. And I also don't think, I mean, we don't have to get into the sacrifice fly in last night's game, but like, I don't think you want to expose the guys who are a big part of your future to a bad big league situation. Like it's a really bad team. This could be a historically bad team in terms of wins and losses, especially if they trade Crochet and Fetty and don't have them for the final 2 months of the season. Yeah. So do you want, I don't want to bring up Colson Montgomery when he hasn't earned it to where he's going to potentially struggle and be in a bad situation. I don't want that to be his welcome to the big league. So based on right now, I wouldn't call him up this year, but I don't think it's a problem for the long term. Even if he's not ready to be your opening day shortstop next year, the White Sox aren't going to contend next year. You just get another 1 year stopgap. And honestly, if Colson Montgomery is ready May 1st, 1 year stopgap goes to the bench or a different position. It's not like we're talking about the Baltimore Orioles where they have more position players in terms of quality big leaguers and quality prospects, and they have spots in the lineup, and you don't have places to put guys. If you sign your placeholder, whether it's Paul DeYoung or whoever, and Colson Montgomery is ready in May, Mr. Placeholder can just there's going to be another opening in the lineup for Mr. Placeholder to get some at bats. So I think that's what you do. But it's, I guess I got kind of off course like I sometimes do. But it's just been kind of an interesting year in the farm system. I mean, Colson Montgomery, it's been disappointing so far. I think a lot of people thought he might be the shortstop pretty much by now. Schultz has taken a positive step forward. Drew Thorpe's been positive. Edgar Caro's been positive. I don't know what to make of George Wolkow and his 43% strikeout rate, but that's not sustainable. But man, he's doing a lot of damage. I mean, there's something there. And I mean, this guy's supposed to be a high school senior. I mean, they got to tone that down. So there have been some positive developments, and then you have, Brian Ramos is, got an ops under 6, and Nick Mastrini's welcome to the big leagues has been tough, and there's been ups and downs. But so I feel to finally get back to your question, I feel like we haven't ranked the farm systems. Maybe they'd be a tick higher. They really haven't graduated too many guys to the big leagues. I think some of the pitchers from last year's draft, Grant Taylor, I don't know what his current status is because he got sidelined again, right?
Yeah, lat strain.
Yeah, but Grant Taylor looked really good. And Seth Keener was kind of exactly what I thought he was going to be. I think he's a high floor guy who throws strikes and has an unhittable slider. So there been, Kai Bush has bounced back some. So it's been, Mason Adams continues to do well. So you've had some ups, you've had some downs. I think as a whole, I'd say it's a slightly positive year in the farm. Does that seem fair?
No, I do think that's fair. I think for the White Sox at the beginning part of the year, we were hoping that the left side of the infield would have been resolved with Colson Montgomery and Brian Ramos. We may be wrong on that end, but the White Sox may have found another quality backstop, and they may have the pieces in rebuilding a starting rotation where you could see that being the team's strength, maybe starting in 2026. It's just a matter of the field goal posts are moving for the White Sox farm system and just trying to keep up. But hopefully both Montgomery and Ramos start hitting again. Watch, Montgomery has a huge future game.
Well, what's interesting, and I'm not saying this guy's, in no way am I saying this guy's better than Colson Montgomery, but at some point, don't you have to promote Brooks Baldwin to AAA? And when you do that, where's he playing? Because you got Ramos at third, and you got Montgomery at short, but Brooks Baldwin might be pushing for. I mean, maybe Brooks Baldwin's your placeholder at one of those positions next year. But you need to get him to AAA. I think he's kind of proven okay. AA. I would hope pretty soon we'll see him in AAA. And then I don't know what you do with playing time, but you got to give him some playing time.
Yeah. No, challenge Montgomery. Maybe some competition will get him right back on track. But again, watch him have a huge futures game. On the trade front for the White Sox, it's all surrounding Garrett Crochet right now. But I wanted to get your thoughts about Crochet because we've been talking about Crochet when the White Sox drafted him in the first round of the 2020 draft, Jim. And he was just named Pitcher of the Month for Major League Baseball in June. I was clearly out on the idea of Crochet being a starting pitcher, even back when he was with Tennessee. So I look like an idiot now, as he is the best performing starting pitcher in Major League Baseball. He leads Fangraphs in WAR. He's second in Baseball Reference, second in Baseball Prospectus. What are your thoughts about the 2024 season for Crochet as he makes his transition from reliever to being the best starting pitcher in the American League?
Yeah, I mean, he probably might hit the wall with innings, but I always liked him as a starter. I mean, it's funny. I guess he just wants to emulate Chris Sale in every way, right? Like, so the White Sox, get him like almost the exact same pick in the draft. They get him to the big leagues the year he's drafted. Obviously, no minor league time because it's a pandemic year. They bring him up as a reliever to help a contender with the idea that you're eventually going to turn him into a starter down the road. Now, he got hurt. Sale didn't. But now we're at the spot where, okay, the White Sox are a bad team. Chris Sale's got I think Chris Sale had a couple of years left on his contract. Crochet, I think, isn't a free agent until after 26. So, you trade him and maximize. I think the White Sox are in a good position here because it's funny. I did an Orioles podcast yesterday, and they were like, hey, like if they were to trade for Garrett Crochet, like Jackson Holiday, I wouldn't be in that discussion, but like, would they have to trade one of their big guys? Or would it be two? And I'm like, it's definitely going to be two. Like, and then the guy wasn't saying it wasn't. I was like, you're going to have to probably give up Samuel Basallo or Kobe Mayo, and then Kerstedt or Colton Cowser to start that deal off. Because I pointed out, and this was the same thing with Sale, and this is why I think the White Sox are in a good position. They don't have to trade Garrett Crochet. He can't go anywhere for 2 more years. So the only risk you run with a pitcher is that he gets hurt, and then you don't get as much for him. But I think just given how there's like just this utter, the supply of frontline starters, and like you point out, he's been as good as any starter in baseball this year, so outstrips the demand that I think you're going to have multiple suitors wanting Garrett Crochet. And I think Chris Getz can just look at it like, blow me away with an offer, because if you don't, I don't have to trade this guy.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like Garrett Crochet is a free agent at the end of the season and okay, we're just going to get what we can for him. So I it's tough because like the White Sox aren't going to contend next year. Do you think they could contend in 26? If you don't think they could contend in 26, you absolutely should probably trade Garrett Crochet, because is Garrett Crochet going to re-sign with the White Sox if he keeps this up? Probably not. So you probably should maximize. Just catch-22 is if you trade him, you're hoping like when you're ready to contend again, you're going to wish you had a Garrett Crochet. But I do think they are in the driver's seat here, where they don't have to make a trade. And I wouldn't trade him. I wouldn't say, oh, we have to trade him by the deadline. It would be, if we get blown away, we'll trade him. Otherwise, we'll trade him in the offseason.
And that's a good point, that they have a couple opportunities. I just think there's going to be a team in the National League, Jim, that's going to change their mind before the deadline and meet what Getz is asking for.
I agree. It only takes like the draft. It only takes one team. Like, I don't know how many teams want him right now. Like, we'll just make up a number. Let's say it's 12 or 15. It's like free agents. You don't get, like, the free agent doesn't get the contract based on what all the suitors average out to pay him. He gets what the team that wants him the most will pay. And I agree. I think there's enough interest that somebody will go nuts on him. And then, honestly, I mean, he won't bring as much, but Eric Fetty's been so good this year too. And yeah. Eric Fetty's under control for another year. Like, you're not going to get, the same haul you will for Crochet. I mean, look at some of the hauls they got last year for the guys they traded who were pending free agents, not having great years. I think they could get a pretty good package for Eric Fetty right now too.
We did get this question from Jerry O'Sullivan. Jerry was wondering, Jim, that in these hypothetical trades before the deadline, should the White Sox try to gain more competitive balance picks for the 2025 draft in their asking price for these returns for their top players?
I don't know if you can trade those yet.
Okay, that was gonna be my follow-up. Like, when can you?
I don't think you can trade those picks before they're awarded.
Got it. Okay.
And they aren't awarded till the off season. But to ask the question and go to get a question, there's nothing that would stop them if they traded before this year's draft to try to get picks in this year's draft. So yeah, I mean,
oh, that would be bold.
Like, I don't know. It depends on who the teams are, but like, yeah, like you could still trade for them. I think, I don't know the exact word. There's so many draft rules now that I can't keep track of them all. But I know I'm pretty sure you could trade for them at least up until the day before, and it might even be the morning of the draft. So yeah, they theoretically could, like again, I'm not saying this is going to work out, but let's say you made a trade with the Brewers. The Brewers have picks 34 and 67. They could give you those picks. So I would definitely be looking to obtain more draft picks if that was an option to trade. But you can't trade for the 2025.
Yeah, so it's the competitive balance round A picks, right? We're talking about Milwaukee.
You could trade B. You could trade B also.
You could trade B
because they got the Mariners pick in the Santos trade.
Right. So in competitive balance A, the Brewers, the Diamondbacks, the Guardians. I don't know if Cleveland could use some help in the pitching front. Man, what if Cleveland offered the 36th pick in this draft in return for Eric Fetty? I would have to think about that.
I think you'd want more than that if you're the White Sox.
Right. But if it was like part of that package.
Yeah, no, I mean, I will say, I mean, I know this isn't the best time to be a White Sox fan, and White Sox fans are disgruntled. I will say, I think when they've made these sorts of trades in the past, and even going back to last year's deadline, they've done a good job of holding out and getting good returns. Whether it's for Chris Sale, I mean, I know they didn't work out, but like the return they got at the time was like a very good return. Chris Sale, Adam Eaton was a great trade. Yeah. Quintana was a good trade. The trades they made last year, they got good players back. Like they've done a good job of holding out and not just seizing the offer. But yeah, so anyway, I would assume that any kind of trade discussion, they're at least asking about those picks. Even if you got a second rounder thrown in, like it's the second rounder.
Yeah, the second round contenders, the Twins. I don't know about the Reds, but I guess no one should really quit right now in the National League. And the Brewers. Yeah. Even though the Brewers, as we record this, just traded for Aaron Savali from Tampa Bay. That's a great question, Jerry. So go, Jerry, back to your question. They can't gain any competitive picks in 2025 yet. Maybe in a Luis Robert deal in the offseason they can. Yeah. But as Jim pointed out, they could still gain more picks for the upcoming 2024 Major League Baseball draft.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Great way to transition to the draft preview. And we talked about what the White Sox have and a little bit about what possibly could come if the White Sox do make any moves. We'll talk about those deals as they happen on the Sox Machine podcast and, of course, write about them and the impact of the White Sox top 30 prospects. It's always fun to talk to Jim so we can invite him back when those trades do come down. But let's talk about the draft. Again, it starts on Sunday, July 14th. The White Sox, as we speak, have the sixth largest bonus pool with a little more than $14.5 million. But there's a lot of attention at the $7.7 million tied to the fifth overall pick. Jim, you guys at MLB, you expanded your top list to 250 draft prospects. The more you speak with scouts and other directors, what do you think is now the strength of this draft class?
It hasn't changed. I think it's the only strength of the draft class, which makes it look even stronger by comparison. And that would be college bats. It's possible. I know 6 of our top, I think 8 ranked prospects on our list are college bats. It's possible that all 4 of the picks before the White Sox will be college bats. It's possible 20 first-round picks out of the 30 will be college bats, and there will be more college bats going in the supplemental first round. I feel bad because when we talked before the season, and I was like, who do you want at 5? And you were like, kind of like Charlie Condon. I think Charlie Condon could pop. And I was like, I'm a Georgia grad, so I was on the Charlie Condon trade too. And I said, I think we had him ranked 7th, maybe coming into the year, 5th, somewhere like that. And I said, I don't think he gets enough love because I don't really see a whole lot of difference between him and Nick Kurtz, who was like considered the most devastating hitter all-around hitter in the class. And I thought he was underrated athletically, that he wasn't a first base only. But you can't have Charlie Condon at 5. He's not going to get there. I think despite our own rankings, which are not my own list, I think he's the best player in the draft. We have him number 2 on our list because we did an executive survey, and 2/3 of the people who responded to Jonathan Mayo said that Travis Bazzana is better. And I think it's not insane, but I just disagree. It's weird. So I disagree with our own list. But the 3 guys you cannot get at number 5, I'm going to say 3. You definitely can't have Charlie Condon out of Georgia at number 5. You definitely can't have Travis Bazzana out of Oregon State number 5. And I'm about 95% sure you can't have Jack Caglione out of Florida at number 5. I think Oakland's kind of wide open. Anybody else theoretically could be in play at 5. So who do you want at 5 now, Josh? I'm going to ask you the question. You can't have those 3 guys. Who do you want at 5?
We're just getting right to it because I was trying to lead up to that question.
I'm sorry. I'm curious about your opinions on that.
No, not
you had
at
the
all.
right call though. Before the season, you had the right call. If you could have taken Charlie Condon with the 5th pick and signed him right then for full slot, that would have been a good move if that was an option for the White Sox. But alas, yes.
When it comes to the 5th overall pick for the White Sox, and the way that I'm looking at it, like what we have heard from Sox Machine, and I need to be clear because there's a lot of people in my recent writings on Sox Machine think I'm advocating that the White Sox must take a position player based on need. No, that's just from what we have heard speaking to White Sox scouts, that they are pushing us to, you should talk more about the position players because that's probably what we're going to be doing at pick number 5. While I was,
and that's what I'm hearing too. So 100%, I agree.
Because for like a good month, I was thinking, man, if you trade Garrett Crochet, you may have his replacement in Hagen Smith at Arkansas. He and Noah Schultz just continue to find these power left-handed pitchers that have weird throwing styles. But the more I thought about it and writing about as far as the particular position players that could be available and what Josh Barfield, the assistant GM of the White Sox, said before the season, the type of position players that they want to acquire and develop, it really points to Konnor Griffin for me. Just based on the tools that he has, the athleticism, the arm, yes, the hitting mechanics need to be developed. And that is something that he was on your podcast. You just got a chance to talk to Konnor on your show, Jim. And
super impressive kid. Super impressive.
And my big takeaway from that is that usually with high school top end prospects, it feels like they give them this chip on their shoulder that they want to prove people wrong, that even though they're 18 years old, that they can play professional baseball. Konnor was very upfront with you. Like, I need to improve my hitting. And that's what I'm looking forward when I join a professional baseball organization or even go to LSU. I want to be a better hitter. And I felt like, okay, this is someone that could be coached up.
Yeah, he's a little bit of a tough one because on one hand, he reclassified. I mean, he's 18, so he's not super young like Wolkow was, but like he reclassified. He was originally going to be part of next year's draft. He's already the best high school prospect in this year's draft. And I think he's got the highest ceiling, Josh, of anybody in the entire draft. I mean, I've talked about him so many times. I have this little like spiel all prepared. He's essentially a potential 30-30 guy who could be a plus shortstop or a gold glove center fielder. That's pretty good. Like that's high ceiling in the draft. He's also up to like 96 on the mound as a right-handed pitcher too. Like he'd probably be top 2 round guy as a pitcher if he was just a pitcher. He's crazy talented, makeup's off the charts. High school stats are high school stats, but he did lead the nation. He stole 87 bases in 88 tries this year. We need to find a catcher and throw him out and find out what happened on that one.
Oh, he got picked off at home. He was trying to steal home.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. You that makes sense. I don't know how you throw him out in Mississippi high school or like stealing second base or something. But anyway, the big question, and it's like I'm torn. So there are several teams who think that his swing, like when you look at the data and the path and everything, that it's not going to play well against big league pitching. There are teams in the top 10 who are just out on Konnor Griffin because of the bat path, and I'm oversimplifying it, but like concerns about him hitting. And in fact, I think if you're looking at the teams at the top of the draft, Cleveland's not going to take Konnor Griffin. I think if they did go high schooler at 1 and it was a discount, they would take Konnor Griffin over Bryce Rayner, who's a shortstop from California. The White Sox would take Griffin over Rayner. And then I think the next team would be the Pirates. So like, I think that's 3 out of the top 9 teams would take Griffin over Rayner. The other teams will all take Rayner. So it's just very interesting. The teams that love Griffin, and the teams that don't love Griffin don't love him. And it's, and again, I'm not a hitting guru. I don't know. I can't sit there and tell you, oh yeah, I'm looking at the data on the swing and there's no way it's going to play. Their teams are convinced it's just like, this type of swing does not play well. And so he's just where everybody's very locked in. Like the guys that love Konnor Griffin agree with me and think he has the highest ceiling in the draft. And their teams are just like, we're just too concerned about the bat. We couldn't take him that high. So I don't, but I do think you're hearing the same stuff I'm hearing. I think he's the favorite. I think the 3 college bats that would be in play at 5, if they get there, one would be Caglione if he gets there. And
Right.
And even though he's the two-way guy at Florida, he's purely a hitter at the next level. And then who am I saying? Oh, Braden Montgomery could be in play. Braden Montgomery could be in play after, Texas A&M outfielder. I think he's kind of the favorite to go 4th to Oakland, although not sure. And then the other guy would be J.J. Weatherholt of West Virginia, who came into the year as our top-ranked prospect and had a hamstring injury and missed half the season. But honestly, outside the injury, there's not really that much different between him and Travis Bazzana. And you might get a good value in Weatherholt. I think the mock draft, last time I did a mock draft, I had Caglione and Montgomery going. So it was Griffin versus Weatherholt. And I went Griffin. But I do hear there are a lot of teams who think it's Konnor Griffin. I think the teams behind them think they're taking Konnor Griffin.
Got it. Yeah, because I recently did a show with our friends from the 108. I'm 85% sure it's Konnor Griffin. The remaining 15% would be J.J. Weatherholt of West Virginia. I don't think I'm going to leave any percentage out of hope for like Charlie Condon or Travis Bazzana.
No.
As you mentioned, they're not going to make it to the White Sox at number 5. I'm sorry that we broke so many hearts in this episode.
But if Weatherholt goes 1, which I think is a possibility because he might be the best value. If Weatherholt goes 1, then it should at least make Caglione or more likely Braden Montgomery available at 5. And I still think they take Griffin over those guys.
Can we talk about the Cleveland dilemma? Because I know you are going to spend a lot of time in the next couple of weeks and even on draft night talking about what the Guardians are attempting to do at pick number 1. Now, the word on the street for our podcast listeners is like Cleveland could break the record of the largest signing ever in MLB draft history. Their number 1 pick is like at 10.7 million, I think, or 10.5.
10.6, I think. Yeah, 10.5 and change. But yes.
But it sounds like, and you wrote a little bit about this possibility, Cleveland would love to draft someone number 1 overall and sign them to $8.5 million. So they could save some money and push it back to a later pick.
I think the better way of putting it, I don't think they're necessarily looking just like, hey, we don't want to spend more than $8.5 million. I think they want to figure out what's the best value for our dollar. Like the last I'd heard, Charlie Condon was not entertaining a discount. So Charlie Condon theoretically will cost you 10.6. Jack Caglione, I don't know. These price tags are all theoretical. I don't know what Jack Caglione wants. But if he doesn't go 1, I think he goes 2 or he goes 3. Like strong chance. And the bonus at 3 is 9.1. So like he doesn't really need to take a big discount. If he's going to get 9.1, then the Guardians have to top that. If Bazzana doesn't go 1, he might go 4 to the A's, and that picks 8.4. And does he really want to go to Oakland? Like, I don't think guys necessarily want to go to Oakland anyway. So like he might be open, but then JJ Weatherholt might go 7, 8, 9, where you start getting into bonuses that begin with a 6. So maybe he signs for 7.5. So it's weird. I don't think the Guardians have like a number that they're trying to meet. I think they're trying to get a price tag. I think they're kicking the tires a little bit on Chase Burns from Tennessee and maybe on Konnor Griffin, but like I don't think it's going to come to that. I really think it's those 4 college hitters, and I think they're just trying to get the numbers and then say, okay, what's the best bang for the buck? It's like they're doing. It goes back to the Astros. Since we've had the bonus pool situation, the Astros had the first round pick the first 3 years, where the Astros wouldn't tell anybody anything, like including the agents and the players. They would just kind of throw numbers out there and let the players sweat until right before the draft started. And everybody kind of does that now. There's no advantage for the team to tip their hand and say, hey, we're going to take so-and-so and pay him this. Because maybe the player takes less money, or maybe at the end, Jack Caglione's like, oh man, my childhood dream was to be a Guardian. I'll take 8.75. Like, they're just going to play it out. But at the same time, I think the agents and players are doing the same thing. Like just like the team's hoping the player lowers his price, the player's hoping the teams raise their price. So I'm not going to agree. What are we on July 3rd? We're 11 days before the draft. If I'm the player, I'm not going to agree to anything this far out. So it's just kind of a cat and mouse game that's going to continue until the 13th or 14th. But anyway, I just want to clarify. I don't think they have a number that's like, we're taking the best player for $8.5 million. That was when I was trying to reason it out. My guess was, at the time I wrote that mock last week, that the draft for today, my best guess would be Bazzani for $8.5 million.
We got this question from Ed Casey, and Ed wrote to us, Jim, your former coworker at Baseball America, John Manuel, would share his personal cheese balls that were his favorites in the draft class that did not reflect the popular consensus. What are some of your personal cheese balls in this draft class? So who are some of your guys, Jim?
Yeah, I'm going to just look at the draft. Like some of these guys are first round picks. Like, I like Carson Bench. And actually, I think he's got some helium. I would take Carson Bench closer. Like, I wouldn't take him in the top 10, but I would take him close to the top 10, closer than he's going to go. We have him ranked 18th on our draft board. He's a guy like Walker Yannick, I think, is going to go in the first round. He's a catcher out of Sam Houston. I think he's a little bit underrated. It's weird. Like, I don't have as many this year because the draft's down. Like, there's still good players in the draft, but it's down. I like a high school kid named Dante Nori from Michigan, who some guys are out on because he's on draft day. He's one of the older guys. He'll be 19 years and 9 months. But I mean, it could be. I think this guy, it's well above average speed. It's center field. He can hit. I think it's at least 15 homer power. And it's goofy to me. Like, people get like, I think people are maybe backing off the age police a little bit now. But like, if he goes to Mississippi State, which is where he's committed, and he plays well for 2 years, everybody's going to be like talking about this guy as a stud in 2 years. So he's a guy I like a little bit. Another high school kid. I feel like I always have a soft spot for the Wisconsin kids, but J.D. Dix, who's a high school shortstop from Wisconsin, I think is one of the better kids in the high school class. But he actually came out of the same high school, Whitefish Bay, that Craig Counsell came from. He's got kind of that gamer mentality, but he's more physically talented than Counsell was. So I wouldn't make the Counsell comp, but like he played through a serious right shoulder injury on the showcase circuit last year. He required labrum surgery, wasn't throwing well last summer. And to me, like, this guy wanted to play even though he wasn't 100%. And you get some guys like, oh, he wasn't throwing well. It's like, yeah, because his arm was falling off. Like, and so you haven't really been able to see him throw much. I think he just started to throw toward the end of the high school season in Wisconsin. So there's still some questions about how much the arm's going to bounce back. But like, he's a switch hitter who can really hit. And I just think he gets dinged a little bit because, it's a Wisconsin high school kid. And I actually think that demographic's been pretty strong, but because of the throwing. But I'm on the bat and on the makeup. So I kind of like him. So those are some off the top of my head. I don't have any. I'm just scrolling down a list. I don't have any real super deep dives because it's Jonathan and Mayo and I do the list together. So I really love the guy. He wouldn't be buried on our list. We do try to reflect industry feedback. But if I love a guy, we're not going to have him ranked. I was scrolling down my list about 125 and I stopped. We're not going to have the guy at 128 if I'm like, man, this guy's really good. So
yeah, mine too, Ed. I really like Luke Holman, right-hander pitcher at LSU, watching his starts this year. And if you watch the College World Series Championship, Dylan Dreiling, the outfielder for Tennessee, had a huge final, and he had a pretty good season as well. He's very team ball in air. I stress this a lot, Jim. Dreiling's fly ball rate, 56% at Tennessee this year. The White Sox can use guys that do not hit the ball on the ground.
I like him too. I liked him out of high school a couple of years ago. He's a draft eligible sophomore. When he was in high school in Kansas, he had a bad hamstring injury. So it was like he got hurt in the second game of senior season. So guys could not really evaluate him, and you weren't going to get him away from Tennessee. But at the time, everybody compared him to current. I think, Drew Gilbert was a volunteer on that team, that really good Tennessee volunteer team. And he got Drew Gilbert comparisons. Gilbert wound up being a first-round pick. He wound up by the Astros, went to the Mets in the Verlander trade. And I think Drew Gilbert's a little bit more athletic, but Dreiling, tremendous College World Series MVP, right?
Yes. Yeah, he went 7 for 12.
Homered in all 3 games. So that one, that was guys were high on him in high school. He's a dude, and that's a good one too, because we have him ranked 72nd on our list. And what I like about him too is he was terrible in left field as a freshman, and he's become adequate, and he could not hit lefties. He went 0 for 16 against lefties as a freshman. So they platooned him, and he made an adjustment and he hit lefties fine. So he's on the upswing. I'll co-sign on your Dylan Dreiling. We can maybe get you Dylan Dreiling in the second round. I don't know, because it's such an early second round pick. That's why they need to trade for one of those comp second rounders and take him with that. I don't know if you want Dylan Dreiling at the top of the second round. Maybe we get you Luke Holman there.
Yeah, see, that's my hope. But the second round picks, because I'm going to get this question a lot, and this is an upcoming spoiler alert Sox machine.
Oh, I forgot they have pick 68.
Yes.
So there you go. You could get both guys.
Yeah, that's probably what I'm going to be writing about. Like second round targets. If I had my wish, if you take Konnor Griffin in the first round, I would go college in the second round with Luke Holman and Dylan Dreiling.
But don't they in the second round have to take the pitcher coming off Tommy John surgery? They can't take a fully healthy pitcher there. Like that's not the playbook.
Who's the Indiana pitcher? He was
Connor
just
Foley.
at the draft combine.
Connor Foley.
Well, Connor Foley.
You want him in the third round?
Luke Sennard.
Luke
Is he the one that
Sennard's
had
the guy
Tommy
coming
John?
off Tommy. Yes. Yeah, Luke Sennard's the guy with Tommy John. Yes.
Yeah. So Luke Sennard.
I don't know. Mike Shirley doesn't like Indiana players, does he? Like, I can't. I don't know if I can see Mike Shirley taking a player from the state of Indiana. I'm not sure the last time that happened. So,
if Konnor Griffin was from Indianapolis, it'd be like, oh, we're 150% sure he's going fifth overall.
Well, it's just like last year. It had to kill him. Max Clark, like maybe the best prospect ever to come out of the Indiana high school ranks, but they didn't have a high enough pick to get him. So.
And he worked with Mike Shirley at Mike Shirley's little facility that he has outside of Indianapolis in his little hitting lab. So, yeah, I had to kill Mike. But
at least he knew there was no hope. Like they were picking 15th. Like you weren't getting that.
Yeah. No, they ended up getting Jacob Gonzalez last year. You can follow Jim on Twitter if you're not already. He's at Jim Callis MLB. Keep pestering both Jim and Jonathan Mayo with your questions regarding MLB's top prospects of the upcoming MLB draft with their weekly mailbag. And listen to their wonderful podcast wherever you listen to podcasts at MLB Pipeline. Again, Jim had a terrific interview with Konnor Griffin recently, so definitely check that episode out. And of course, watch the MLB Draft with Jim Callis on MLB Network starting on Sunday night, July 14, 2024. Jim, you guys always crush draft night. Best of luck on draft night. And thank you again for coming on the Sox Machine podcast.
Anytime, Josh. I always enjoy talking to you, and thanks, and keep up the good work on your end too.
That will do it for this episode of the Sox Machine podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you just discovered the Sox Machine podcast, you can subscribe to the show wherever you listen to podcasts, such as Spotify and Apple Music. You can also listen to the podcast on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/SoxMachine. Follow us on social media. We're at Sox Machine on all the platforms. You can follow me at SoxMachine_Josh and follow our beat reporter James Fegan at JR Fegan. Speaking of James, if you'd like to support us and have full access to our White Sox coverage, including James's reports at White Sox games and also on the road covering the team, sign up at patreon.com/SoxMachine. Our Patreon supporters get ad-free versions of both the podcast and website, full access to all of our coverage of the Chicago White Sox, and also additional perks like monthly Zoom calls and even the opportunity to join our Veterans Committee, which gives you direct access to not only James but also Jim Margulis through our group chat. You can sign up at patreon.com/SoxMachine, and we also have annual discounts. The Sox Machine Podcast is a production of SoxMachine.com, your home for all things Chicago White Sox baseball and part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. I'm Josh Nelson. Thanks for listening and watching.